with Chernobyl's 25th anniversary reminding the world of the terrifying consequences of nuclear safety negligence. Many eyes have turned to the continuing crisis in Japan. We're now joined by Arnold Gundersen. He's an energy advisor at Fairwinds Associates. He's joining me live from Vermont there in the US. Good to have you on our team, Mr. Gundersen. Well, I spoke to you when this crisis first began, and when we had that interview, you said to me that Fukushima would become a Chernobyl on steroids. Do you still stand by that?
Well, when we spoke, you'll recall that the Japanese were saying it was less than 3 Mile Island, and in the last 2 weeks they've finally admitted it was as bad as Chernobyl. And then a week ago, they upped their radiation exposure, so it's essentially identical to Chernobyl, and it hasn't stopped. 6, 7 weeks into it, Chernobyl was not emitting any more gases and not emitting any more liquids, and Fukushima still is. So we're not out of the woods yet on Fukushima. Yes, I stick by what I said 6 weeks ago.
Well, if the situation is as critical as you say, why is it that the Japanese authorities are telling us that everything is indeed under control and getting better?
I've been frustrated by the Japanese authorities, both the electric company and the national authorities. Since this began, they have consistently underestimated the magnitude of the problem. I think, with 50 reactors and fears of power shortages and associations with the nuclear industry, that combination makes them want to see the absolute best in a situation, when in fact it's much worse than they're willing to admit.
Some would say they were just trying to keep the situation calm and not to scaremonger the population.
Yeah, I think they have tried to keep it calm, but it's one thing to keep it calm. It's another to tell the facts as they really are. And I don't believe that TEPCO did. I think they've had information in their possession that should have caused an evacuation sooner, and they certainly should have gotten the younger people and the pregnant women out much sooner than they did. So keeping calm is nice, but ignoring the facts in front of you is poor management.
Interesting, you talk about pregnant women and children. Indeed, we know that the Japanese government has a new, much higher acceptable radiation threshold for children. I see, though, that the level they've chosen is what other countries deem only safe for adults working at nuclear plants. Are they being reckless in some ways, taking a risk with young lives here?
I think it's inappropriate. I think it's a gross miscarriage of what we know to be the science of radiation. What happens is that kids and pregnant mothers, their cells are dividing very, very fast, much faster than an adult male. And by allowing the kids to receive what an adult male might receive as a legal limit, in fact, the risk of cancer to a kid is between 10 and 100 times higher for the same exposure to an adult.
Let's look at the future now. Japan has announced a plan to cover the reactors in a protective shield to stop all radiation leaks. Is that going to work?
I don't think so. I think the problem at Fukushima is that a lot of the radiation is leaking down into the groundwater. It's obviously in the ocean. It's been detected in fish 40 kilometers away. And the interesting thing this weekend is that they detected radiation in the foundations of Fukushima 5 and 6. And they're about a kilometer to the north, a half a kilometer at least to the north. So clearly the radiation is already seeping into the groundwater. So putting a cap on top won't solve the downward migration of that radiation at all.
I just want to end this very quickly, running out of time. Briefly, given your experience in the nuclear industry, you've worked in the nuclear industry for a long time, but now many saying, look at the dangers it poses. Surely this is the end of nuclear energy. Alternative energy sources must be now found. Isn't that the end of your profession in some ways?
Yes, I think that this is the bookend. If Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island was the one bookend on the nuclear era, that Fukushima will bookend the other end of the nuclear era, and people will begin to realize, perhaps not immediately, but begin to realize that we're going down a path where the costs are so astronomically high, and so are the financial costs to build, that there's got to be a better way.
Very interesting to hear what you have to say, particularly from somebody who's been working in the nuclear industry for so long. Arnold Gundersen, Energy Advisor at Fairwinds Associates, thanks for joining us live there in Vermont.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.